Living in peace is the dream of many, but Ling Lan could not realize it, even when she was reborn after 10,000 years. The world of the future was not a paradise. On the contrary, there were many problems that could not be solved even by advanced technologies. Ling Lan was unlucky to be reborn as a girl in this cruel world, so to protect her loved ones, she played the role of a guy. Nobody said that women are inferior to men, but in this world, this path was the most effective. Having received a healthy body, the main character was sure that it was she who would have to destroy these prejudices. In 4731, according to the sidereal calendar, an enemy attack occurred on the border of the Federation. The strongest high-class mechanical robot pilot Ling Xiao left his pregnant wife and went into battle. The enemy was not stupid, although he was significantly inferior in strength and equipment in the battle with the divine fur. The man made a good plan. He wanted to return as quickly as possible and catch the birth of his child. Ling Xiao's cataphract was called the Fire Phoenix. His laser attacks had destroyed many fools who dared to challenge. This case was no exception. The father of the main character was so strong that he could defeat 15 mechs himself. One of the headquarters workers asked whether it was worth returning the divine fur, but the captain ordered to continue to hold the line. Even though all the discovered enemies were defeated, the workers were worried about an anomaly found nearby. Large energy fluctuations are a serious threat. They could tear something apart, as in the Stalker series of games. The core of the Death Star that Ling Xiao so bravely defended became destabilized, which could lead to an explosion. The man, having heard the information from the headquarters, became worried. As soon as he turned his head, the end began to rapidly approach. The enormous energy that was able to break the shell now calmly moved forward, destroying everything in its path. Meanwhile, in one of the incredibly developed cities, the man's wife was already ready for the onset of labor. Lan Lofeng was not only a beautiful woman, but also a loving wife. She believed that her husband would return soon. Suddenly, the butler of the Lin family named Qin burst into the ward and spoke about the tragedy that had occurred. These 10 words opened the door straight to hell for the girl. It was difficult for her to restrain her emotions. Earlier, before leaving to do his duty, the man asked his wife to wait for him. However, now Ling Xiao will not only miss the birth of her child, but will also never see him again. The not-so-intelligent Dvorex caused complications to arise, and Lan Luofeng's emotional state worsened. Earlier in 2019, people on our Earth did not even know what the future awaited everyone. But even at that time, there were many people who were very unlucky. A girl named Ling Lan was one of them. A healthy body was a dream for a teenager, but death from an incurable unknown disease came unexpectedly. Although her relatives were glad that Ling Lan would not have to suffer further, they were not ready to lose her. The disease that the girl encountered was very strange, so they began to study it. A strange-looking portal appeared out of nowhere. One might think that Kurogiri was playing around again, but a mysterious voice spoke of a transfer. The entity said that the girl's body is now nothing more than a spiritual clot of energy. If nothing is done, Ling Lan will simply disappear without any trace. This will happen soon enough. Moving between times, the girl observed the incredible beauty of space. No one had seen anything like this before. When the eyes of the main character finally opened, she was in the middle of emptiness, not understanding what was happening. While out of space, the girl heard the voices of doctors. They said that the child's condition had become stable. It was unclear what these people were talking about, but without giving the opportunity to demonstrate the miracles of deduction, Ling Lan was again pulled into the portal. Everything looked as strange as possible. Even the very fact of life after death seemed very incredible. In the future, things finally took the right turn. The girl was born completely healthy, which could not but rejoice. Although technology was capable of doing almost everything in this world, it failed to reach some aspects of life. Many officers and people related to Ling Xiao came to talk about his achievements. The butler did not let them into the room. Luofeng could no longer hold back her tears, so she handed over the last gift from her father. The baby was named Ling Lan, and her adult relative from the past was a little ironic about this situation. The butler took a bold step and named Ling Lan a boy. According to their law, only men could receive an inheritance. A side branch of the family was trying to take over, but the main character's mother told her not to worry about it. It was time for something, so the man picked up the baby and carried her to a special device. Ling Lan thought that this was the moment of feeding, but she still didn't know how wrong she was. In her previous life, the girl was unlucky to be born with a disease, and now her strength was so weak that she could lose everything. The results of the study were so shocking that Luofeng got out of bed and ran to the device. The baby's spiritual powers were better than her father's in his youth. Perhaps this child is the key to change. The mother ordered everything to be kept secret. The baby's abilities were truly promising. Luofeng wanted her daughter to choose her own path in life and not become an army dog, as is usually the case. The woman did not want the wealth and status received by Ling Lan's father to be passed on to someone other than her daughter. The child's eyes began to slowly close, and the local Hitogami, another child, appeared in his head. The creature from consciousness introduced himself as an assistant in pumping. He asked to call him Mr. 4. The main character was wondering if everyone goes through this guide from the cradle, or if she was just unlucky. Mr. 4 explained that he was the only one in the world, and even before moving on to the important, he decided to tell him something. The illness in the past is the body's inability to accept the power that Linglan possesses. Her spiritual energy is great. Even though the main character in this world is immature, you need to learn to control her powers, otherwise everything will be bad. The assistant promised to teach the girl to restrain her strength within 2 years. Any carelessness would be dangerous in her case. The situation was not simple, but Linglan should have woken up quickly. Her mother was very worried, and if they delay, then the girl will be transferred straight from the place for newborns to the hospital. After a moment, Linglan's consciousness left her inner world, and she decided to calm her mother down by making a little noise. The woman was glad that her worries were in vain. She had no experience, so the quest was not easy. While Luofeng was waiting for the child to awaken, the butler resolved all issues with inheritance and recognition. Despite the complexity of the upcoming trials, my mother promised to protect the family to the end, no matter what. Although the butler looked stern in appearance, he was actually quite kind. He could not hold back his tears. However, now it is a secret that Linglan the girl will not leave the confines of this institution. For the rest, a boy was born. The woman's confidence scared even the gloomy Qin. Now everything will definitely change for the better. Luofeng was confident in her abilities. She would protect the child to the last, just as Ling Xiao would have done. Lin Palace was like a real space fortress. It was even cooler than one could imagine. A month later, the woman announced to everyone that the child would inherit everything Linglan. That's the name of the one who will rule the family. Many were unhappy with this policy because military benefits can be obtained not only by serving your country. Lin Suren, the elder of the family, stated that they do not dispute the heir's right to the throne. However, all they want is for only the most capable of all to be at the top of the Lin family. The main character was angry because the old man not only intimidates the child, but also puts pressure on the single mother. But Luofeng was not going to give up. She reminded those who are now biting the hand that feeds who brought them to this position. Each child, depending on their potential, received the serum. It allows the body to develop. There are 5 levels in total, and without any doubt, Linglan will get the best one. Luofeng met a group that brought a stimulant drug. A person's capabilities are greatly expanded due to its properties. Even though more than 10,000 years have passed, many medicines were still administered using a syringe. Effective, simple, and cheap, but since his previous life, Linglan hates such things. She wasn't prepared for 2 things, the first shot and the fact that Hunter x Hunter wasn't finished. Immediately after the injection of the serum, the main character was thrown into her inner world, where the 4th one was eating energy. The taste seemed very pleasant and painfully familiar to him, but he noticed that there were many impurities inside. This liquid is only harmful if not properly filtered, so you should expect more from a top-quality product. The part about harm really bothered the main character, because she didn't want to get sick or face problems again. She asked her assistant why they were injecting them into children if they were hardly of any use. Then the 4th said that perhaps such a concentrate would give people an effect, but the technology even now is too bad. The effect will be stronger if the product is pure. Impurities prevent the essence from saturating the body with energy. Linglan asked what they would do in this case. Then the guide reassured him, promising to handle it on his own. The S rank was not the very last. Many of the children received the SS rank or even higher, although they are born only to the elites. What was surprising was that even those above Linglan in class could not absorb more than 7 capsules of medicine. The military calculated and decided that 6 pieces would be enough for the child of the Lin family, but out of respect they took 10. But even this amount is hardly enough. The clan heir absorbs the essence too easily. The main character was worried about whether it would work out, but the 4th one calmed her down, saying that they took no more than necessary. Linglan didn't want to stand out, and besides, everything was new. She couldn't even imagine how wrong she was. The walking guide promised to pretend that the girl's body could take 10 injections, although it could easily take more. Scientists hoped to stop at 10, but the 4th was sure that this was too little for him. Linglan was the first in the history of mankind to conquer the entire drug at once. While the scientists were leaving and making a report to the main character's mother, she herself found herself in a rather difficult situation. The 4th was worried about the reaction of the military if he removed the impurities through sweat, so he decided to save them. However, now the situation has become more complicated for the girl herself, because a slightly different breeding method was chosen. For this, the girl was ready to introduce her companion to the power of her dam technique. Meanwhile, things were not very calm at the logistics base of the federal district. The soldier reported to his superior that no problems arose during the administration of the serum. The boss was concerned about how many people had such valuable information, to which the subordinate had an answer. The guy said that, apart from the two of them, only the assistant and the doctors directly performing the injections know. The heir's rank was to be changed to S. Besides, no one other than people above the rank of general should know about this. The man thought that this is the best thing that can be done now. Besides, those who can find out will be aware. Now this is perhaps the only way the boss can repay Ling Xiao for his service and protect his child. The girl herself, meanwhile, was resting in a capsule to test her abilities. The four promised to sort everything out. Ling Lan's thoughts were interrupted by his partner himself. He said that the girl was now ready to move into the training space. The little one was interested in this, so she tried to enter her inner world on her own. The main character's spiritual strength continued to increase, so if she doesn't train, then after 2 years the girl will get sick. Ling Lan was not very happy that she would find out about this so easily, but there was nothing left to do. The girl tried to unlock one of the doors, but the fourth explained that each of them had its own requirements. At the moment, only one door is open for the main character, filled with red light screaming that it is dangerous there. Since the language was still incomprehensible to Ling Lan, the four adapted everything to suit the girl's familiarity. She was grateful. It was quite dark inside the room. It seemed as if the walls were alive and moving right now. The little girl promised herself that she would not be afraid no matter what lay ahead. Before moving on to any other training, a girl must take control of her spirit. As soon as Ling Lan concentrated, a blue light began to emanate from the void, gradually filling the space. Later, a man appeared after him. The little girl asked if he would teach her. The man asked to be called number 1. The training course was quite varied. It was worth bringing Lan up to speed. The training program was sure that the system would be complex, but Ling Lan had previously failed in the path of exile. There were 3 directions of courses: attack, defense, and balance. By their name, it was generally clear which stats to increase. Balance was a universal option that combined techniques from the other 2 styles, the ideal middle ground. The goal of defense is to completely or partially neutralize attacks. The style will be built around this. The balance looked more profitable, but the other branches also looked interesting. The girl couldn't decide for a long time. Then she decided to ask her number 1 teacher for his opinion, because no one knows them better than himself. The man's face was not very kind in appearance. He recommended that the girl focus on studying defense techniques. Ling Lan agreed to take this course. She was glad that she showed courage. Otherwise, she would have made a mistake. First of all, it was worth training flexibility. A child's body is not capable of much, but it needs to develop from the very beginning. In just a couple of movements, number 1 created a girl in the room, telling her to watch her movements and stances. The figure was so tall that the baby was lost against its background. It was worth making as much effort as possible. It may not have turned out very well, but Ling Lan tried her best to pass the first test. In addition, if the girl does not follow the recommendations, then punishment will follow immediately. During one of these training sessions, the girl's mother came into the room and realized that her daughter was too bored alone. Then Luofeng decided that she would take Ling Lan with her for a walk, because the little girl had never been outside before. Ling Lan was pleased because she would finally be able to feel the taste of freedom, which was previously only a dream. This time was almost the same as the one in which the main character lived, almost the same problems and advantages. For a comfortable walk, special transport was provided. Luofeng hurried to go inside, holding the girl in her arms. The little girl liked the futurism and style of modern cars. Besides, there was even an autopilot. In addition, there are games in which the girl herself will spend points, so only she can decide which path to take. The girl didn't quite understand how she should spend something and where she could do it, but she felt there was a catch. Several hundred screens appeared in front of the girl with the names of different skills, including combat skills. Even under such pressure, the little girl understood that honor points are a valuable currency and should not be spent on just anything. However, you still have to make a choice because this is part of the lesson, and you should hurry because time is not endless. Within 10 minutes, the baby can make a choice on her own, but after that, the skill will be selected by the system. Not only were there a lot of skills, but most of them were not that expensive. Lan's eyes began to run over the lines. Her attention focused on the muscles of steel skill, a special technique for 1 honor point that strengthens the body. However, every skill had an undesirable part. The choice became increasingly difficult the more time passed. The girl decided to purchase the rabbit hyper kick, a powerful technique of extreme strength that can only be used with level A flexibility. After all this time, the little girl was able to choose only 1 technique. The mentor asked if she was really sure. However, in almost all the allotted time, he managed to choose only 1 technique. He warned that the glasses could burn out, but this was hard to believe, especially considering the difficulty of obtaining them and the total number. There was no confidence in this theory, because apart from the words of the teacher and his reaction, there was no evidence. When the 10 minutes were up, number 1 notified Ling Lan only 1 skill had been acquired. 10 points were deducted from the account and 1 more was added. The rest will be saved until the next purchase, as Lan thought. Now it was time to move on to the next stage of training. This time the test was more difficult. 10 skills over the next 5 years, a prize for fulfillment, a punishment for failure, were worth watching carefully. This time the positions demonstrated by the avatar seemed impossible to the little girl. A few days later, the doctor came to the girl again to inject the same serum. Thanks to her experience, Lan was no longer afraid of injections and doctors, so she reacted quite calmly. As soon as the doctors left, the mother of the main character came up with some kind of plan. She saw the specialists and went to Lan's room. The girl had to go somewhere with Luofei, but she didn't mind, she doesn't get to go out that often. But to the surprise of the main character herself, they passed through a secret passage unfamiliar to her. They walked quietly and slowly. The little girl got the impression that they were like low-skilled ninjas, but it was even cool. When the woman finally arrived, she found herself in front of a bathtub with a green liquid that gave off a pungent odor. Next to the container was a woman named Ling Nai, the wife of the butler Qian. After waiting a little, the wife asked to put Lan in the bathroom. The liquid looked like acid, so the baby was very scared, but she was sure that they were not going to harm her. The temperature of this mutagen was just right, so Luofei didn't have to worry about her daughter getting burned. A couple of minutes of preparation and the main character already began to like the process. Apparently she was afraid in vain, although the sensations were strange. The head of the Lin family was worried that Lan's face was red, but Nai hastened to reassure her. This is a normal reaction. Suddenly the warm water began to tingle, as if the girl was bathing not in liquid but in 1,000 prickly balls. A suit appeared on her body out of nowhere. The colors were to Lan's taste, but she didn't understand where it came from. Then the little girl tried to enter her inner world and ask if everything was okay with the four. Having passed through the portal, she noticed a baby flying under the ceiling. His reaction was also unusual. The energy that the Lan heiress felt all this time was unusual and definitely increased cellular mobility. The main character suggested that this is her family's secret drug, which is used for pumping. However, the lineup seemed too familiar to the four, although it was difficult to remember exactly where they encountered it. Then after thinking a little, the young man realized that the composition of this bath included the poison of various creatures. It is capable of liquefying cells. This seemed to be a big inspiration for number 4, as the pieces complemented each other so well. He said goodbye to the main character, promising if circumstances were successful to develop a new serum. But Lan couldn't believe that she had enjoyed taking such a toxic bath in the first place. The effect gradually began to become noticeable. The child began to cry and his skin turned slightly red. Mom asked her daughter to wait a little, even though she wanted to get her out as soon as possible. She even tried to do it. But the maid stopped her mistress so that she would not violate their ritual. He had to provide support to the girl. Nothing should have happened because the law of their world is survival of the fittest, and Lan's potential is beyond the pale. The mother was ready to cope with the experience and hoped that her daughter would also endure the harsh training. As soon as the hardening time was up, the girl was taken out of the bathroom and carried back to the room. Everything seemed to be fine. They were met by the butler Qin. He inquired about the effectiveness. Each indicator increased by at least 30%. The best result was 80%. In addition, Lan's health was not in any danger, which means that the strengthening of the body with the help of the solution was carried out successfully. Qin was very surprised by these results, because previously it was believed that the minimum always does not exceed 10%, and the maximum 50%. All this could only mean one thing. Ling Lan was born into a great person. Even if there is no D in her name, she will become an important figure. Lan inherited not only her father's characteristics, but also the pace of development. Soon she will already be the first. 4 years later, the girl was training together with other mentors, and number 1 was soon to appear. The traditional arts of the Ling family were harsh to learn and extremely effective, and after each training session, there was a scorching encounter with that same green solution. Perhaps this seemed too difficult for a 6-year-old child, but this is how you can achieve incredible heights. The fourth reason that the knowledge the girl received in real life was too inadequate. They may look useful, but the risk of damage to the body is too great and does not compare with the effectiveness. The philosophy of this world says, you need to be strong, otherwise you will be defeated by the strong. One way or another, there is no choice. In 6 months, the time will come to test your skills. 10 exercises from the test room must be mastered perfectly. Before the end of the term, it was still necessary to master the last 3 positions. As luck would have it, they were not given to Lan, no matter what she did. But it was impossible to give up, so the main character trained, ate, and took a bath with herbs more and more energetically. A busy schedule and a lack of alternatives forced the little girl to rush everywhere and everywhere. She could hardly sit back. The 9th position was extremely difficult. It was practically impossible for the girl, but the timer had expired. Number 1 appeared from the void again. Or rather, he took Lan to his training space. He saw that the little girl trained hard, but still failed him. His gaze expressed silent rage. The main character was very ashamed because she was not able to cope with the task in the allotted time. Number 1 told the student that it was not his job to assess readiness. He was only an instructor, so he did not need an apology. Lan continued to not understand what exactly was being said because it was the blonde who was talking about the results of her training. Then a gloomy image appeared behind the girl. The system announced that the task was not completed on time. The completion rate for the last exercise was 70%, and multiple solutions were provided. Either an electric shock that occurred in the girl's head earlier, or deduction of all accumulated points. There was another option. In this case, you could exchange 10 points for additional training time. An additional 30 days to complete the training, but if you fail to do so, the punishment will be doubled. If you make it in time, the punishment will automatically be canceled. Now the value of the points began to appear. The teacher hurried the girl because they didn't have much extra time. They had to decide which path to take next. Then Lan chose the third option. It seems that this angered number 1 a little. He decided not to wait long. Therefore, I showed the little girl where Sparta was. Although she was not in pain, the training still helped. A month later, the technique was finally mastered, and power again began to flow through the body, as if through an open tap. The sensations were the same as the first time after completing the basic course. Lan liked this arrangement. Then she again found herself in front of mentor number 1, with 15 minutes left on the timer until punishment. Chin was sure that in the strength test hall, the girl performed no worse than Saitama when receiving a hero's license. The admissions committee noticed some oddities during the check. The employee asked a colleague to check the observations. The main character's intelligence rating stated that she had no creative thinking, planning, or management skills. Colleagues hoped that Lan would perform better in other tests. She could not be lower than the best classes. But one of the guys was skeptical about the student's position, saying that Class B would be the best for him. The guys watching the test were inspired by the candidate's confidence, so they decided to check the box for themselves. Ling Lan explained the conditions and also noted that they were in a test, not a competition. It was important to show oneself, but you shouldn't take too much. Then before starting, the main character asked what indicator would indicate the best score. Colleagues were a little surprised by the question, because the child is not able to lift too much weight, and it was strange. To get the highest score, it was necessary to lift a barbell weighing 250 kilograms. Lan chose it without a doubt. The dimensions of the sports equipment exceeded the dimensions of Lan by several times, and the weight by 10 times. No one could believe that this was even possible, but remembering a quote from Jaco Fresco, Lan became inflamed. The center workers were shocked. They had never seen anything like this. Many adults cannot lift such weight. Lifting 250 kilograms was not the first time, but it was often accompanied by pain, and now it was not so difficult. The red-haired employee congratulated the little girl on passing the test. This is the first time in 3 years that someone has passed. Lan gained access to the next test, but further escorts were prohibited from going with the student. Chin was forced to wait for the young master at the very entrance. No one expected such a rule. However, Lan's success in the strength exam gave her confidence, so she simply asked him to wait for her. The soldier was surprised at the child's insight, because usually everything happened a little differently. There were many tearful children ahead who did not want to let their parents go, but Lan was actually 30. The students were divided into 3 categories: commoners, children of the military, and nobles. The elite students were the most numerous. Lan's smile amazed the military man. He asked him to stop doing this because it could end badly for the student. Before leaving, the bald man wished Ling Lan good luck. The next test would not be as easy as the previous ones. Transferring into her consciousness, the girl noticed a 4th flying in the sky. He called her Cutie. This is how many people see Lan, so she should be careful. People are too different. There were a lot of people in the crowd. It made it a little difficult to concentrate. The main thing was to avoid trouble. However, among the many students, a guy noticed Ling Lan and began to wave his hand, trying to greet him. The main character tried to freeze herself off, but the persistent extrovert decided to approach on her own. The guy's name was Ji Long, and his girlfriend didn't seem very happy that he brought someone else to the company. He noticed that Ling Lan passed the strength test faster than him, so despite his appearance, the brown-haired man was strong. The main character was alarmed by the fact that this guy knew about the result. It would be worth finding out where exactly. But the answer was quite simple and boring. There was not even anything to hide. Ji Long was the next to enter, and as soon as he was inside, everyone was just busy discussing the genius of strength. Therefore, he was interested to see what a unique person he really was, and then the boy saw Lan in the crowd. Along with the boy was his best friend named Han Zijun, and the cousin of his best friend Han Shu. If the guys reacted positively to the appearance of Ling Lan, then the girl was not very happy with her opponent. Then the main character also introduced herself. Everyone around must have thought that she was a guy, so Lan played the role. The next exam was started. Everyone was asked to return to their groups. They had to work hard. With the beginning, everyone scattered in different directions, as if at that crossroads where Kaneki realized that he was a ghoul. The test for speed and endurance was a group test, with 10 people in each group, although the indicators were also assessed individually. Linglan ended up in a group with her new friend Ji Long. It was real luck. Later, it became clear that not only these two were in the group, but also the rest of the guys Lan had previously met. They were also joined by another couple, brother and sister, but even so, there were only 6 of them. The circle of acquaintances would soon be replenished. The main character's smile was indeed a very effective weapon. It could create obstacles or destroy them. This is exactly what happened with this couple. The sister was happy, but her brother seemed to sense the emanating threat. So that Lan could not completely charm his sister, the red-haired guy stood between them. The main character began to worry. The situation was a little awkward, but the girl quickly realized what was happening here, so she didn't bother to arise. The guy's name was Luo Lao, and his twin sister was Luo Chao. The young man was unfriendly and always defended his sister. The sister complex did not disappear even after 10,000 years. The main character did not even know whether she should be happy about it or not. As soon as Ji Long heard the reasoning of the main character, he began to laugh strongly at this, because Lan had noticed exactly. He was rather amazed that in all the time they had known each other, the guy himself had not thought of such an obvious thing. The main character attracted too much attention with her joke. Everyone around began to whisper. Then the redhead himself approached Lan and asked what she was gossiping about, but the girl only shook her head. Ji Long warned that this is how things usually happen, but if Lan didn't do anything, why is everyone around laughing? However, by accidentally joking again, the main character only complicated the situation for herself. Lan considered these experiences to be paranoia. Luo Lao wanted to show how cool he had learned the moves from Tekken, but Luo Chao reminded him that the exam had already begun. Our main character tried to calm everyone down so they would stop laughing, but the situation got out of control. Meanwhile, someone was approaching Lan from behind, and then jumped. Due to the high reaction speed, Lan did not have time to see her face. It looked like it was an embittered Luo Lao, who was planning to take revenge because someone played a prank on him. Ji Long decided to stand up for his new friend after all. He was partly to blame for this situation. He repelled the boy's blow. Ling Lan was surprised by this behavior, because no one had stood up for her before and she solved all the problems herself. Then Ji Long loudly asked why Luo Lao attacked him and said that he would defend himself. He did not want to be disqualified. However, these guys continued to compete, not wanting to give up the winning place to someone else. The brunette finally came to his senses. His friend is usually very attentive and does not miss even the little things. It was worth listening. The guys gradually began to slow down, starting to play for a long time, without wasting energy and without speaking unless necessary. After which the blonde decided to ask Ling Lan's opinion. In turn, the girl did not think that anyone other than her would notice. It quickly became apparent that no matter the speed, facing the rain was an inevitable fate. They simply wanted to make them panic. Therefore, there was no point in worrying, maintaining the pace and believing in their strength, the only thing that would help them now. In addition, there was a possibility that there was no finish line for this race at all, so their goal was different. Most likely the test began the moment they entered this room, because they have been running for so long and there is no turn. It turns out that at that moment they entered virtual reality. In the past, the girls wrote short stories about other virtual worlds. But to make the transition from reality so smooth, no seems as if it were happening in reality. They planned to test their theory. The girl noted that the blonde had a great future if he used his talent correctly. Drops of water began to rapidly fall to the ground. Apparently, this is the first stage of their test of what will happen next. The water that fell on them was not virtual. It was the simplest ordinary water. Perhaps there are installations on top. This training was very difficult for other girls. Ling Lan was the only one who noticed this, because she was not only thinking about herself. It was not clear to her why none of the guys would help Luo Chao. There were her friends and even her brother, but absolutely no one. Then Han Zijian explained that in order to become a soldier, you need to learn to be independent. This is the foundation. If war breaks out, there is a high probability that you will only be able to rely on yourself at a difficult moment. Even though Lan agreed with this, there were some nuances as to whether they were really testing endurance. If only these qualities are assessed, then anyone can pass such a test, and for them this is unacceptable. Moreover, in this case, it made no sense to introduce the guys into virtual reality and divide them into groups. After thinking a little, Lan realized that it was obvious that their examiners were soldiers, and there were 10 of them per team, the bare minimum. To verify her theory, the girl turned to the blonde and asked him to tell about the main selection criteria. Among the key qualities were selflessness, loyalty to the Republic, caring for and trust in one's comrades. The purpose of the school they entered was to prepare qualified soldiers who would become a support for the state. Therefore, the goal of this task is to show trust and care for your comrades, because each squad is like a family. At this moment, the truth reached Han Zijun. Everything was simple if you thought in the right direction. In order not to set the others up, the blonde gave instructions to the other guys. They were supposed to provide support to the girls. Those same examiners were watching Lan and her team. They were surprised by the guy's decision and accidentally attracted the attention of their commander. After which, they decided to report to the boss that they had just stumbled upon worthy children who were ready to pass the exam. The man was amazed because the guys acted together, helping each other and not concentrating on their own qualities. This did not happen so often, so their behavior attracted attention. They could be dealt with even on the bloody ridge. The captain demanded that the soldiers obtain information about these children as soon as possible. Information about each one is needed. All the information was sent to the man almost at the same minute. It seems their system works faster than our banking system. He carefully studied the information about everyone who was in Group 072. Lan stood out the most. Lan was recognized as the son of Major General Ling Xiao, a divine cataphract pilot and also a great commander. High skills and performance, the boss suggested that the apple fell not far from the tree. The commander told the soldiers that the group had successfully completed their exam, if only they could have been released sooner. Then the workers asked how to evaluate them, because in fact the test was not completed. But the answer was so simple. The guys didn't know how long they still had to run, so they tried to save energy and support each other. The commander gave further instructions. The soldier quickly realized what he had to do, so he acted immediately. Jilong was dissatisfied with the way they were being evaluated, so he promised to give the soldiers a thrashing after passing. They saw a sign. They had only one lap left to the end. The girls behind them were assessing the situation and looking for obstacles. Working at this pace, they will definitely be able to withstand a few more kilometers. The blonde tried to cheer everyone up. But even though the task was clear, it was impossible to complete it so simply. Everyone was at the limit. But only the last step remained. A little later, the blonde's cousin asked to put her on. She didn't want to be a burden, and was determined to run the last lap. She was worried that this would affect the guy's performance. She didn't want the boy's grade to be lowered. Everyone was at the finish line, as soon as everyone got there together, forgetting about rivalry. Now they are all in the same boat. If they fail, then all the effort spent on this test will be useless, so now is not the time to show weakness. Even though the blonde decided to run on her own, she suggested that they reach the finish line as comrades. Then they would definitely pass. Probably the end was already close. Everyone stuck to each other like a real squad moving forward step by step. The soldier who first noticed the success of Group 72 notified everyone about the situation, asking them to prepare the next stage for them. The guys who were responsible for the gap were very surprised, because no one had coped with this exam so quickly. Passing the baton, the soldiers said that the children were strong this time. They should hurry, otherwise there might be problems. The boy decided to return to work. Since such outstanding examples came under his care, it was worth taking the matter seriously. This young man was the one who then turned into smoke. He appeared again unexpectedly, stopping the entire group. Jilong does not waste words, so as promised, he decided to show the examiner a double lasso so that he would not relax. But it was not difficult for the soldier to dodge the amateur blow. He took a step back and then stopped the guy. Even though the training was tiring, everyone turned out to be more optimistic than expected. The examiner seemed pleased. It looked like the guys still had the strength to fight. They should have stood up if they planned to move on. To ensure the strength of the recruits, the examiner decided to teach them a lesson in martial arts, asking them to attack him. However, the blonde decided to ask why the soldier made such a decision, because next they had to have another exam. But the guy didn't even understand what the meaning of the question was. Everything was really obvious. Senpai's arrogance offended them greatly, but they continued to pursue the issue, talking about how long they had been running. If this is some kind of test, then there was no point in it. They were very tired after the test and would not be able to show a decent result. Realizing that the situation was not typical for such a test, the blonde wanted to file a complaint. This greatly amused the soldier. A moment later, the guys received an answer. Their complaint was cancelled. They had a battle ahead of them if they did not want to leave. The fourth inside the LAN world was also not very happy, but if the examiner asks, beating him would be a good reward. The sudden appearance of the guide in the head of the main character did not really please her, but the behavior of the soldier forced the fourth to do so. Then the partner asked Lan to do this at least for him, otherwise he would not be able to calm down and continue working. In general, the girl didn't mind, but since she was doing something for her partner, he would also have to repay something. The fourth wanted to deal with the upstart. He could have done it on his own, but he was only support. The young man's behavior was very strange. He was not trying to offend or provoke them, but then what was he planning? This question did not leave the head of the main character. Then the fourth turned his attention to Ji Long. He was ready to explode. After thinking a little, the girl finally decided to do this for her assistant because he doesn't often ask her for something. However, once she returns, her partner will have to figure out a way to quickly complete the #1 mentor's training. The guy with the strange hair decided to attack first. After all, he was initially tuned to this tone. Hitting the soldier turned out to be a difficult task. This was not just another win in Dota 2077. Ji-long was not going to give up. The force of his blows was high enough for a child, but it was still not enough to win. Red decided to provide support, even though they often argued, but now they have one enemy, which means the best solution is temporary peace. Even though Luo Lao tried to make a surprise attack, his speed was too low, so his attempt also failed. It was clear from their opponent's movements that he was at a high level, and it would not be easy to defeat or at least hurt. Then Lan decided to try. Her blow was significantly different. The boy noticed it immediately. He exuded danger. Even though the soldier was able to withstand the blow, Ling Lang's strength was on another level. He is the most skilled of everyone present. The girl's second blow was also blocked, but she managed to attract the examiner's attention. Now he will be more serious. Although the attempt was unsuccessful, Lan was able to successfully hit the girl standing behind her. Apparently, she is now popular. Her physical condition wasn't bad, but Lan's body could hardly keep up with her plans, and it was impossible to give it her all. To gain an advantage, the main character took command of the guys and explained how they should attack. The guy praised the tactics of their attack, but once again reminded them that this was not enough to win. Lan did not plan to hold back. The girl picked up speed and began moving towards the examiner. It would be impossible to stop even a child with such force without the help of hands, so the soldier threw away the distractions. He managed to dodge the girl's first blow, but the movements did not look like improvisation. The girl definitely mastered the style. But before the guy had time to land, Lan and her comrades were already heading in his direction. It seems the soldier underestimated the children. The boy with red hair gave up first. He had no strength left to continue, so then it was up to this couple. The girl decided to give one of these to her Nakama to put him on his feet and give him some strength. Of course, this won't make him the Hulk, but it's enough to crush the stones, so Lan walked up and pretended to examine the wounds. And then she shared that she has a plan B, but the guy in it will get a little unpleasant sensations. While the guys were whispering, the examiner got bored, so he tried to hurry them up. The battle was not over yet. Since the soldier had no free time to play, Lan suggested a last stand, all or nothing. Ji-long was the first to go into battle. The soldier had already seen this blow, so stopping it was not any big deal. But he did not expect that Lan would attack after the boy. The strike from the blind spot was more effective. Deciding to show Lan what they would have to face, the young man used one of the techniques using spiritual energy. The guy was too involved in the battle, so he was worried that he could not apply the force correctly and damaged his internal organs. As soon as he got closer, the main character's plan began to take effect. She pretended perfectly the setup could not be seen. As soon as the examiner was distracted, Lan immediately launched a kick, knocking the young man off his feet and slamming him into the wall. Then she said that the mission that the examiner set for them was successfully completed at that moment. Lan also asked whether the expert would accept such a victory, or whether he would not be able to accept that he fell for such a cheap trick. The guy had no time for this, because he thought that Lan had sacrificed her comrade in order to pass further on the test. If that was the case, then allowing someone like Ling Lan to cultivate in the Federation would be a huge mistake. Then the girl tapped her shoe on Ji-long's leg and also said that you can stop pretending. The guy asked if it was possible to implement the plan. Then Lan gave an affirmative answer. Only the examiner was shocked. Even if the young man with the strange hair didn't make the shot, if it weren't for his great acting skills, it's unlikely they would have had a chance. Lan whispered the procedure to the guy as he was thrown back, and then handed him an energy drink. Therefore, when Ji-long was thrown back after the last attack, he simply pretended that he was seriously injured and lay unconscious. However, this plan greatly angered the examiner, because it was too risky, anything could go wrong. But Lan reminded who exactly made a significant mistake here. The argument was so weighty that the examiner didn't even have anything to add. The girl was right, because it was obvious that the soldier would restrain his force and not hurt the student, which means they could not risk it. Even though he was stronger by several goals, he was unable to do anything. He was caught by surprise with no chance of winning back. The examiner believed that Lan showed him how weak he is. She may be a child, but her thinking and strength are on another level. The guy had no choice but to recognize all the participants as having passed the exam because they had fulfilled his condition. Everyone was very happy, because this meant that they were one step closer to being accepted into the best classes. Only Lan and the blonde were not so cheerful. These two understood exactly how high the probability of failure was. Since the test was successfully completed, it was possible to leave this semblance of Blue Lock right now. Another stage would soon begin. It was already obvious that it was likely that the trio who passed his exam today would reach the top of the army in the future. This was followed by rest. While other children were still taking tests, the results were not known. Soon the data would appear on the first floor. Meanwhile, Lin Chin, who was waiting for the young master this time, was very worried. The test had taken quite a long time. Lan said goodbye to his new friends and suggested they hang out again after entering the academy. The main character was glad to meet someone she already knew, because the last few hours had been difficult. However, suddenly the girl felt threatened. She jumped back, but something was very close to her and exuded danger. As soon as you looked closely, it became clear that it was her new friend Ji Long, who perfectly hid his presence. The guy admitted that he was weaker and promised to catch up with Lan soon, and he also came to say goodbye to his friend. But while the young man is weaker, he will call the main character the boss, because today she proved how tough she can be. At this time, Han Zijian was happy with the show he had just seen. It looked like everyday life at the academy would not be boring. Then Lan turned again, but to the blonde she was interested in why the guy couldn't be independent. She asked him why he didn't solve the problem with Ji Long. This confused the guy a little, but he quickly returned. But when the guy teased the girl back, she had no choice but to pretend that she didn't know anything. The blonde also recognized the main character as the boss of their team, because everything worked out only thanks to her plan and perseverance. Next came the red-haired man with his sister. They were ready to go under the leadership of Lan because others had already recognized her. Even if not though, the girl became the leader of their company. She did not understand how everything turned out this way. The fourth also supported the initiative, starting to call Lan his boss. The longer this lasted, the more embarrassed the girl became. Meanwhile, the soldier who fought with the children was ready to give a report to the commander, who had previously recognized the children. The captain scolded the examiner for losing to 6-year-olds, and also ordered the guy to train every day. The young man understood that he should not show his pride now, so he simply accepted the order. But before they finished talking, the soldier wanted to give his recommendation to the one unit that aced his test. Previously, these recruits also interested the captain, so he supports the words of his subordinate. To reinforce his words, the man spoke in detail about everyone's actions as well as strategies. Each of the guys had their own advantages. Some reacted faster, some managed to make unusual shots. Considering the way they fought at such a young age, they could absolutely be called geniuses. The soldier thought so. According to the examiner, only one of the guys can become a fur operator, but is this really so? The blonde was the only one to whom the guy had not yet managed to give an assessment. As for him, the assessment would not be accurate. His fighting style, as well as tactics, he is a good analyst and strategist, but has not shown combat skills. The fourth and last guy with red hair, compared to the others, he doesn't look confident, but his spirit is great. With proper cultivation, each of them can become an excellent gem in the army, although Bisky Kruger is not here. Even though the young man's recommendations were accepted, it seemed to the commander that the soldier had not noticed the main thing. While resting, Linglan waited for the academy to finally give grades to all students, because they graduated too early. Statistics showed that the girl was second, and her friends were beyond 30. But later the statistics changed. Not only the main character saw this, but also her partner, which means it didn't seem like it, although now they were all together. The girl's situation may have worsened a little, but for that she will be with her friends as they planned. The main character's mother, as well as the butler and his wife, were very happy with the fact that Lan succeeded. The girl was enrolled in Class A, only the top 3 doesn't get there, a class for those who are predicted to have a great future. However, Luofeng had confidence in her daughter, and knew that it would be easy for her to cope with this task. The occasion was worthwhile, so the guys decided that they should celebrate. Luofeng ordered everything to be prepared. It seems that the significance of what was happening was much more important than the girl could imagine. The most important holiday for the main character was that her close people were happy. She was finally able to please everyone. Everyone was having fun, even the usually gloomy Lin Chin. This was the first time the little girl had seen him so joyful, even though they had known each other for 6 years. The girl decided to drink cherry juice with everyone, but she ate so much that she had no strength left after the first sip. Mom and her personal maid were amazed, but it seemed to them that it was better to have their first experience within the walls of the house. Meanwhile, the examiners held a meeting. Almost everything was done, and grading turned out to be more difficult than one might imagine. Even though it was all over, one of the workers didn't look happy at all. He explained that he was worried about one detail. Something was definitely wrong, so the guys decided to report it, although they were not sure what exactly was wrong. Using deduction, the staff managed to find out that someone had interfered with the Academy's central system. The attackers moved carefully, leaving almost no traces, but their changes were tracked, albeit not completely. The commander thanked his people for their good work, and asked him to leave the rest. He planned to sort it out. Suddenly, someone approached the man. His behavior was unusual. It was probably someone with a higher rank. It was the general who had previously helped Lan by hiding some facts so that she would not face unnecessary obstacles. He was interested in why they approached him, Then the man told about the son of General Ling Xiao, about his strength. The boy's power in the future may be so great that entire alliances will begin to fight for his support. The man also reported that hackers had interfered with the system. He understood that his cupper Ling Xiao had been framed. Now his son may be in danger. The head of the test asked to increase the guy's protection, but he was refused. The general asked not to worry about this, inviting the man to simply enjoy his vacation. However, the situation in which the man simply sits and watches was not suitable. For the first time, he decided to listen to his heart. 413, the guy who previously fought with children, was released from leave and received a new assignment. It was no longer possible to turn a blind eye to everything they said. It was worth finding your truth and judging by it, so the boss believed. Meanwhile, Lan, very tired after the test, was successfully brought to bed by her mother. It seems that this night the main character will dream about a lot of interesting and exciting things. She has set out on her own path. But before the girl could relax, Mr. Mentor number 1 took her into his world. The girl's condition was no good. It seems that the teacher has finally become a little kinder. He watched the recent battle and did it so carefully that Lan couldn't even imagine. The way the girl coped was no good, but Lan was sure that she did everything perfectly, because in the end she passed. However, the problem was that it would be impossible to hit the examiner without using tricks. Mentor number 1 explained that if this was not a training match, the girl had already seen the game over sign, and it would have happened quickly. The first number was disappointed with how the girl showed herself, because he instructed her so diligently. Then the teacher realized that in this case it would be impossible to do without traveling through wildlands, where he sent his student. The girl didn't understand the joke, but she didn't have the opportunity to refuse. The young man said goodbye to Lan and wished her good luck. It seems that she too underestimated how insidious the support program could be, because now she will have to try. The place in which the girl had to survive was filled with many different animals and plants. Her appearance was quite enchanting. Although the fall was strong, the girl did not receive any significant damage. Also, mentor number 1 prepared a special gift, since the girl faces such a difficult test. Her appearance has become as if she is now at least 16 years old. This is a great opportunity to improve her skills and knowledge. Before Lan had time to get used to her new body, suddenly a huge snake with huge fangs came out of nowhere. However, even so, the girl's reaction made it possible to prevent an unexpected attack and immediately incapacitate the monster. The rabbit kick, mastered many years ago, was finally really useful, even if I couldn't use it in the exam. It quickly became clear that in this forest, literally everything would have to be dealt with by the main character. Like a mosquito or a huge lizard, even plants can be dangerous. After an insect bite, the girl became ill. At that moment, the girl died. Number 1, watching her, looked with interest at his student's first pocket. He was curious how many times a girl would die in this world before she could reach the required level of ability. A few hours later, Lan woke up again. She remembered exactly how she lost consciousness, but now everything is fine with her. Everything that was happening was a little reminiscent of a Will Smith movie, but the place seemed even more dangerous. You will have to learn to survive in this forest. This is not an ordinary place, but the girl has already decided what she will do with number 1. The place where the girl found herself was a real kingdom of wild nature. Various creatures and monsters lived nearby. No one knew what specific moment would be the last. The fish was being hunted by an otter or some large rodent. The animal was being hunted by a giant snake, capable of swallowing a car whole, not to mention a small animal. And the snake in turn was hunted by an incredibly large crocodile, capable of biting through a log at a time. Food chains have been established over centuries of development and selection, but what place does the main character occupy in it? The correct answer to this question is the highest, because unlike all monsters, she is smart and dexterous. She was able to get rid of her weaknesses and learn to use her strengths, to use everything she has. In addition to her survival skills, the girl also improved her physical strength. Her adult body helped her in many ways. Now you can knock out such a huge monster with just one blow, which Lan actively used. Having defeated the strongest monster of this forest, the girl was ready to meet the one who imprisoned her here for a long time. Instructor number 1 appeared unexpectedly. He saw that the main character's anger had not gone away. He praised the student for adapting well to the local realities. He chose a cruel place, but Lan managed. The girl asked if the young man was going to kill her or train her, because she had gone through a lot. A whole month has passed since I entered this evergreen world. These 30 days turned out to be full of surprises. It's a pity that they were negative. Poisoned fruits, insects, monsters, and other things that Lan doesn't want to remember ever again. Once they even tried to eat her vegetables, although these were flowers compared to the last week. The girl could have gone crazy from everything that happened. Then the mentor asked directly if this had happened. However, Lan realized that she had led herself into a trap. She did not have an answer to this question, or rather, she did not like it. Even though the girl was dissatisfied, she coped with the task. Now the girl had to receive a reward. The mentor asked to follow him. What Lan could get was worth the effort put into completing the training. Returning to the room with many doors, the girl's age returned to her original age, but she was not happy about it. A month later, the main character woke up in her bed. As if nothing had happened, she was woken up by the cat. She was very surprised that Vulpix was sitting on her, because before that there had been no one like that in their house. Then the fox cat decided to introduce herself. It was the physical embodiment of the fourth. He was in a hurry to wake up the girl. Today was the first day of school. It was impossible to be late, but Lan was interested in how he was able to get out of her world. It turned out that the guide had gotten into the toy that my mother had given me. Hacking it wasn't a big problem for him. Even though Lan was not happy with this outcome, it was impossible to deny that the baby looked cute and very attractive. In addition, they could contact outside the internal space, which greatly simplifies the task. Lo Fei was very worried about Lan, so the main character had to calm her down for a long time. The girl had a bad feeling in the morning, and the girl was right. Their ship was attacked by an unknown ship. Qin switched their ship to a defensive position. Otherwise, they were unlikely to withstand even 2 repeated hits. The attack seriously angered the grandfather. He was ready to show exactly how to deal with enemies. 413 was also observing the situation. He could not believe that the captain's words were true. Someone really attacked. At that time, the boss ordered him to keep an eye on Lan. There was a high probability that the enemy might try to capture her. Thanks to the man's insight, the ship with Qin and the main character was taken under protection in time. The enemy ships that attacked Lin's ship were attacked by the Allied forces. The pulse weapons fired without stopping. Surprisingly, 413, the enemy used equipment provided by the Central Military Forces. Things were very bad if the Central Army itself became their enemy, because in this case it would be impossible to simply turn a blind eye. The detachment wondered whether it was necessary to take the ships intact, or whether 413 would accept the work even if they were disabled. In the salon itself, Qin put a jetpack on the girl. Her tame Furby was also ready for rescue, but there was no hurry. The grandfather planned to protect the young master no matter what the cost, but sacrificing someone was not part of Lan's plans. However, despite the suppressive fire of the Allied forces, some of the enemy ships continued to attack the main character. Dealing with the ship was quite simple. One precise hit in the central part of the ship was enough. The depressurization occurred unexpectedly, but Lan was not afraid. They were preparing to escape. Lin Qin asked the girl not to worry. He promised that everything would end soon, but now it was time for them to fly. The main character, despite what was happening, was not at all afraid. Her grandfather appreciated this in the girl. She inherited her father's spirit. The man planned to jump first in order to divert attention, and Lan herself was supposed to jump after him. After which the girl had to find a secluded place and hide before people came to her aid. Qin jumped down without any doubt. He wanted to become bait so that the girl could escape. A lot of fragments were flying to the sides, so the girl hid behind one of them. This would help her escape. The first blow was the most important. It determines whether the plan will be realized or not. It was obvious that Lan had taken refuge in the forest nearby. It was worth starting the search from those places. Qin was surrounded but not broken. In his hands were several dirks, and around were soldiers in power armor. The man gave a signal to attract the attention of his allies, but at the same time gave away his location to his enemies. The soldiers hurried into the flattering thicket. As soon as they noticed only one silhouette, they had too little time. Help would soon arrive. However, the old man turned out to be not so simple. He easily defeated 3 soldiers without even blinking an eye. Even after so many years, the man turned out to be extremely capable. He probably didn't even need help. Now the devil in Lan understood how skillful their family's butler is. It's a pity he's not a demon. And her name isn't CL. The girl pointed her finger at one of the areas. There were the most opponents there. She was wondering if the cat was ready. However, hacking a toy and an entire spaceship is a bit incomparable, but he is almost done. The man noticed that a shell was flying in his direction. In this situation, he could not do anything and had already accepted his fate. When suddenly he was obscured by another enemy ship, it was the work of the fourth, for which Lan was grateful to him. The enemies could not believe that this was possible, but their slow reaction led to damage. The remaining enemy ship was attacked by all the Allied forces that arrived, but they were still trying to escape back. 413, the leader of the operation, noticed that the last ship launched a reverse teleportation system. They did not go far. The priority goal was to save the Lin family. This task was taken on by the Cataphracts, 2 guys from a side branch of Lin. However, Qin only scolded them for being so slow. They could have done it 10 seconds earlier. The guys admitted their mistake, but there was no point in reprimanding them too much. The main thing was to find the girl. Besides, they were still too young. They would have time to learn tricks and improve their technique. Qin thanked the soldiers. The man told where exactly the young gentleman was hiding so that professionals in their field could save him. The expression on the face of one of the soldiers was a little strange, as if he was regretting what would happen. Someone was approaching, so the guy asked his partner to be silent for a while. It was impossible to make a mistake. In the current situation, these can be both allies and enemies. You should be prepared for anything. However, Chin himself came to rescue the young master. He asked Lan to come out of hiding because now everything is in order. Lan was happy to see her grandfather, thanking him for helping her cope with this difficult situation. The guys standing in front of the main character were unfamiliar to her. Then Chin explained that this was a detachment secretly guarding them. Among them was the captain of the Order of Cataphract Knights. But where were the others? The girl assumed that the detachment had fallen behind. The young master's insight and intelligence greatly frightened the guys. They could not understand how Lan knew this. Before receiving the report, Ling Lan also scolded the soldiers for coming too late. After which one of the soldiers began his story. Everything happened when they entered the emptiness of the city of Kia. The captain managed to notice enemy devices that intended to attack. The threat could not be ignored. The detachment split up. While one part distracted the enemy's attention, the second went to the rescue of the young master. However, due to another skirmish, the captain and a member of the squad lost sight of Lin's ship. Fortunately, nothing happened to Lan. But the main character was more concerned about the condition of the people, because the number of enemy units exceeded the allied ones. The girl did not like the captain's way of thinking. She scolded him for his frivolous attitude towards her own life. The girl noticed that each of the soldiers had a holster, but the pistols in them were different. This interested her. She asked her loyal subjects to borrow them so that the girl could evaluate them more carefully, which was invisible from the outside. The girl remembered how she used to be a fan of Alucard and decided to pocket a few things for herself in order to become closer to her idol. The soldiers were a little surprised by this behavior, but they could not do anything about it. While the guys were looking for the right words, Lan's feet carried her to the family robots. The Hulks were not only powerful, but also stylish. Chin asked to leave the young master. If he begins to be interested in something, he will spend a lot of time on it. One of the soldiers suggested Lan to see what a cataphract looks like inside. In the future, the main character will pilot a similar one. However, the girl asked so much that the grandfather simply could not refuse her. The smile had too strong an influence. Then Chin agreed, but they were already delayed for just a few minutes before they went to the academy. It quickly became clear what exactly this strange guy was planning. As soon as they were far from Chin, the girl was lifted up. The huge mech's lasers were aimed directly at the heir of the Lin family. The enemy's plan apparently had to be carried out. The main character asked the boy not to move, or her finger would accidentally slip and it would be very loud. Then the captured loyalist said that their family had always had one rule: the head must earn recognition on his own. However, Lan's behavior was too secretive, so few people took her side, except perhaps those who were loyal to Ling Xiao. Qin wanted to solve the problem on his own. Understanding what the loyalist was striving for, he wanted to destroy trust. Before doing anything, Detective Lan explained that she didn't suspect the soldier at all. Everything became obvious when the girl approached the cataphract. Everyone taking part in the battle was damaged. Even those who did not fight in the vanguard received damage. Then one logical question arises. Why is there not even one scratch on the robot piloted by the soldier, if the battle was so difficult? Ling Lan said that she may not be recognized, but she is still a member of the Ling family, which means that if you betray her, you are betraying the family. The other knights planned to take revenge for their captain. The girl's decision was a little rash in the current conditions. But apparently they were terrible at studying, so hitting from a distance of 25 meters was too difficult a quest. The young man with a strange hairstyle immediately noticed the robot. Mechs were the real dream of every soldier, as was an elite rank. Everyone was glad to see their leader, although some believed that he would not come today. The landing was quite spectacular, but Lan asked not to tell anyone about it. This is their first secret. Jilong promised that his mouth, like everyone else's, would be kept shut, although in fact he thought such an appearance was super cool. The main character said goodbye to her grandfather and hurried to her lessons, because they were very late. In turn, Chin was very pleased that there were so many people around Lan who were ready to support her. The first day was not so brutal. There were a few basic procedures to be done, so a friend suggested we go get coffee. The only one who thought about it was Khan, because allowing yourself to travel on a robot is too expensive. Who Ling Lan really is, as well as what his intentions are now, is what the blonde wanted to know. After completing registration, the guys could choose which campus to live on. This is very convenient because they can live together. The main character wanted to order something, but as soon as she found herself near the table with prices, she was shocked. The prices were too high, but none of the guys even thought about it, because money was not a problem for them. Lan was annoyed that even after all this time, children were not taught financial literacy from the very beginning. Whether 10,000 years ago or now, money is the main tool in life. Not knowing how to use it is stupid. Realizing that the situation was sad, the main character took upon herself the responsibility of monitoring finances. The girl promised to give everyone 1,000 loans a month so that they could learn how to use money. In order to somehow influence her nakama, Lan reminded them who exactly their boss was, and if so, then the most difficult thing should be on her. The first one who decided to entrust his savings to a girl was Khan. He understood that Lan was not stupid, so he did it for their sake. Then the rest of the guys followed his example, because the concept of money was not even familiar to them. The only one who was in no hurry was Jilong. He asked to give the card after he treated everyone. The guys were happy that this would begin the formation of their team. Lan had already begun to behave like a real boss. But other members of their guild were only surprised at how much the young man with the strange hairstyle ate. After some time, several other children came up to them to say hello. They knew the red-haired boy. However, they were having lunch right now, so Jilong asked them to come back later and not interfere with the meal for now. Then, trying not to get himself into trouble, the guy decided to leave. He had to learn more about the academy and get an advantage. Before leaving, one of the guys was surprised how much Li Yujin hated Li Zijun. There could be many reasons for this, but the blonde just wondered what the future would hold for their family if this upstart was chosen as the head of the clan. Li Zijun's cousin was much better. Everyone loves him, and he is also the first heir. Whoever becomes the head of the family, this does not concern him, because the young man's goal is to become a good soldier. Then he will be safe. Then a new member was accepted into their team, although the main character was only thinking about her older brother, whether he was really so cool. The guys said goodbye, but the girl promised to come early tomorrow so that they wouldn't have to wait for her again. However, the remaining children were upset that their boss left the company for a while, and Jilong was especially sad. Returning home, Linglan received a report from Qin. The man talked about the reason for dating Linghua. The main reason was the son of a soldier. He was a year younger than Lan, but no one from his side family was enrolled in the academy. He had high potential, but as long as the Lin family existed, the young man would not be able to go to school, so it was decided to carry out an assassination attempt. However, the girl did not understand what the point was in betraying their family. He could turn in the counterfeiters and get an opportunity. The man was most likely afraid that the main family would not want to see such a force nearby and would get rid of it. All these prejudices tired the girl. Even if they are military, they will not punish for every wrong breath. The old man asked the main character what she plans to do with the child and the soldier's wife. Now it is the guy's responsibility. Linghua's son ran to the main family's estate. He wanted to ask the young master about his father. Lan suggested that this whole situation was a cunning setup from her grandfather. It's a pity there wasn't a lie detector nearby. But the man, like Neo from the Matrix, stopped the bullets with his hand, telling them that it was time for them to move on. The soldiers did not let the child go ahead. Lan had to decide his fate. Now such a choice will always be with her. The young man could not believe that his father was dead. He was too strong to die. The child of the Lin family wanted to know the truth. Then the girl shared her thoughts about how easily even the strongest among us can die. Lin Huang really died. Lan began to scream and ask who exactly killed his father. He wanted to take revenge on this man for everything. The main character said that she didn't know this, but it was probably someone from the top of the army, and Ling Xiao's death was probably their doing. Lan explained why the young man's father died. He wanted to gain freedom, and now young Mr. Lan gives permission for this. However, the guy gave up this dream, wishing to take his father's place while maintaining his place in the Lin family. The guy wanted to become the most loyal loyalist who would help Ling Lan in everything and find the killers of their fathers. Lan was very amused by the irony, because it was she who killed the guy's father because he wanted to give him the freedom that the young man refused. At the same time, having revealed a desire to become the right hand of the head of the family, respect for Lin Huang allowed the girl to make a decision. The guy will be able to attend the academy with everyone else, and after that he will have the right to return to the family whenever he wants. Ling Huang's son promised to work very hard to serve directly under Ling Lan in the future. Qin wondered why the girl made such a risky decision. It could end badly in the future. Ling Lan then explained how she didn't like losing chess pieces, and this guy could be very useful. The girl insisted that Qin take care of the witnesses, but what if Lin Yu learned the truth from her enemies? The main character said that this is perhaps the best outcome, because this way they can find their enemy without losing an ally. Lan planned to mind her own business, allowing her soldiers to do whatever they wanted until they were needed. As soon as she found herself on the bed, the girl began to be drawn into the world of training again. This time there was a battle with two wolf monsters. They were definitely summoned by Lucan. They were too big and secretive. However, the condition for victory was not killing the monsters, but surviving for 20 minutes. The reward and punishment are unknown. It became clear that Mentor Number 1 was simply mocking the girl. There was no other way to describe such tests. True, there was nothing to do anyway, so Lan began to complete the quest assigned to her. Meanwhile, an important meeting was taking place in the Lin family's meeting room, and an unusual guest came to visit them. The man's name was Dean, and he came to dissuade the girl from studying in a special class because she lives off campus. Mom played the role perfectly, saying that they are helpless in this matter. The girl does everything to make her father proud of her. Dean offered the main character's mother a position as a teaching assistant so Lan wouldn't have to go home. However, the girl was not sure. This might not be enough and her condition would worsen. She was too saddened by the loss. Chin advised his mistress to accept the offer, because the safest place is the academy with many people and soldiers. In addition, children are always under the protection of a divine class cataphract, which means the risks are minimal. Luofeng then accepted Ding's offer. They were willing to move in with Ling Lan if the conditions were met. Ding was pleased that his proposal was still able to influence Luofeng's decision to move. The woman could not believe that her son looked like this every morning. For her, this was real happiness. Luofeng could not stop admiring her child for a long time. She loved him so much. Lan realized that she had to hurry before her mother used her hug technique. Then she would not get out of it. The main character asked to take care of her mother and close her room, trusting Chin's wife in this matter. The fourth Kikal from how Lan communicates with his mother, they are quite cute, although the girl often angers Luofeng. However, the girl only said that she was trying to defend such boundaries before everyone began to be tied to adolescence. Everyone was already in the class. The main character was late again. A hard school day was ahead. Jilong greeted the boss. He asked to sit in a seat not far from him so that they could have fun even in class. This kind of treatment from her classmates raised questions in everyone's minds, and it worried Lan a little. The places of the girl's friends often changed. Then the guy with the strange hairstyle explained that because of the conversations they were moved. In addition, the places were very mixed up after the teacher allowed them to fight for places. If you win, you get a place. At this point, Lan went into Akuma mode and was ready to call free throws, a bad habit from her #1 mentor. The girl promised hellish workouts to her friend, since he doesn't want to do the usual ones. Then Han Zijun asked how the girl was going to keep track of the guy if she was a full-time student. Lan said that recently she now lives on campus, only in a separate building, so nothing prevents her from monitoring. Hearing this, the young man with the strange hair was happy, because he always enjoys a day with his boss. Therefore, the class teacher of Class A decided to continue yesterday's topic because of the new student. The teacher asked if anyone wanted Ling Lan's place, if those interested were worth submitting a challenge. One of the guys finally decided to check what the guy the 1/5th grade calls his boss is capable of. The guy seemed confident in his abilities, but since he got into Class A, he was probably worth something. Lan thought so. The teacher was angry with the young man for trying so zealously to grow his Yu-Gi-Oh hairstyle. He should not interfere. The main character did not see the benefits for herself and wanted to refuse, but the teacher offered the guy a month of service if he lost. Then Lan said that under such circumstances, there was no point in refusing the challenge. Even though the fourth one called the guy a weakling, there was some vague feeling that he was not as simple as he seemed. A few minutes later, Lan and her opponent were already standing in the arena. The teacher was telling the rules. As soon as the battle began, the boy immediately ran forward, using an unusual skill. The sphere of energy in his hand glowed green. But the main character continued to stand motionless, demonstrating her determination, courage, and confidence. However, thanks to number 5's intensive training, such opponents no longer pose a threat. As soon as the main character put both feet on the floor, her opponent was already flying at full speed into the wall. Only one blow was enough to defeat Lin Zhongqing. This disappointed the girl a little. She expected more. No one could understand what actually happened. In just a second, the strong fighter was knocked out. It became obvious to many how dark and dangerous a figure Ling Lan was. The girl had hardly shown half her strength. The teacher had no choice but to recognize Lan as the winner of this duel. Lin Zhongqing promised to take revenge one day and win, because he would not accept such an outcome no matter what happened. The soldier liked this attitude. He believed that motivation was the key to successful development. He encouraged the loser. The child monk was amazed by the power of Lan. Then his master asked if the girl was stronger than himself. The bald young man did not know how to get out. The outcome of the duel was already obvious to many, and it was unlikely that the girl was interested in the new member of their guild. However, even though the guy with blue hair was self-confident, he understood that Lan was a dangerous opponent for him. What surprised the girl was the reaction of the defeated young man. He was glad of what happened. Studying the strength of her new ally, the girl was amazed at what she saw in his status board. The guy's strength was a genetic mutation of cells. The army studied him for a long time, but no one found anything useful in this gift. The situation with Lin Zhongqing was too strange, so Lan asked her partner Fourth for help. He must be under special control because there is definitely something behind his actions, but what exactly? The guy lost and had to carry out orders for Lan for a month, but she was not interested in such antics. Zhongqing brought her extracts from lectures, but the girl did not need them. The head of the Lin clan did not understand how to behave. Then Jilong intervened in the conversation. He was irritated by the persistent behavior of the newcomer because he did not listen to what he was told. Therefore, the young man with a strange hairstyle did everything to ensure that they did not cross paths with this strange guy. However, the main character herself understood that this was not a way out of a problematic situation, but rather an unwillingness to accept hopelessness. Then Zhongqing asked to find him if you suddenly needed anything, a phrase from a typical NPC in Skyrim. Afterwards, the guys planned to go for lunch, but even then they couldn't tear themselves away from the new guy. He was even willing to buy lunch for everyone with his own money, no matter what they wanted. Even though the young man tried to pretend to be a loyal simpleton, Lan was not so stupid as to fall for such a bluff. They placed an order and the young man followed him, asking him to wait for a while. The main character came up with a plan. Jilong didn't understand why the boss allowed this guy to behave like this. Even Zhongqing's appearance angered him. Others also expressed their opinions, many suggesting that this was the boss's way of assessing the newcomer. In fact, the girl was worried. Even if he was not dangerous now, soon everything could turn out in an unexpected way. The only one who, as always, caught everything on the fly was the blonde one. Khan guessed that the matter might be dirty because of the blue-haired one. He's probably pursuing some goal of his own, or maybe there is someone much more behind him. It's impossible to know now. A child monk and a blue-haired one came to him over and over again to ask him to join their association, but he refused. Another such attempt ended in a demonstration of the special power that the guy received as a result of his luck. Zhongqing became angry every time someone neglected someone's strength or position, and when he was angry, he was terrible. The blonde, meanwhile, was looking for convenient ways for himself to crush his brother's enemy, both for joy and benefit, as they say. However, Lan's opinion was that Ling Zhongqing was testing her, but the motives were still a mystery. Then the girl decided to put on a small show. This should help with her goal now, although truth serum would be more effective. Then Lan decided to explain to him that Lin Zhongqing is now working for the main character, because he lost a fight to her earlier. This was necessary so that the guy from the Li clan would think that she was the one forbidding Zhongqing from joining them. The offended guy was very hurt by how exactly he was defeated. He promised that someday he would repay Ling Lan. When the blue-haired man again asked if Zhongqing rejected the proposal, he repeated his answer and said that he would not refuse his words. The guys couldn't understand why the boss decided to become a shield for someone like Lin Zhongqing, but Lan didn't do anything. It's all the fault of Li Eugene himself, who hasn't taken his eyes off their table since the beginning of dinner. Now let him solve his problems himself. Training number 5, although much more effective, was also more difficult and more brutal. It seemed as if number 1 was just a demo version of his devil brother, like Dante and Virgil, only worse. If Lan hesitates at the decisive moment, this mistake will cost her more than 200 honor points or 200 lightning strikes. Number 5 studied the girl with interest. He was curious how long the main character's mind could last. Number 9 was worried about the girl. In the early stages, it was she who showed the movements to her partner. 9 reminded the 5th that their goal was to grow her strength, and not to destroy her mind or body, but the red-haired one was on the wave. 5th himself was surprised, because she was the only one who mastered all the red-haired's training during the existence of their project. However, the girl could not open the Tao now, even though she was close to this as never before. The 9th did not like cruel methods, because they wanted to make the lives of those who deserve it better. In order to talk to Ling Lan alone, the 9th forced the 5th to leave. Otherwise, he would have a hard time. The red-haired man did not argue. He only hoped that upon his return he would be able to hear good news. Waking up the girl after such a hard workout was not difficult. The 9th planned to tell Lan a little. The feeling is comparable to standing on the wall of a high-rise building. There is emptiness above and below your head, but you are not falling. Lostness and misunderstanding are Lan's main companions now, but the 9th calmed the girl down, promising to help with this soon. Because of the connection, each of the instructors knows about the girl's condition, as well as about the vibrations that hit the consciousness like waves. Then the 9th said that this feeling is characteristic of the stage when you move to a new level of knowledge of power. The threshold of Tao interested the main character, but she was even more worried about the words that she survived the 5th test thanks to luck. The mentor could not explain what exactly Tao means, but when Lan reaches this state, everything will be fine. Before the girl was sent back to the real world, 9 said that she couldn't give more information. It all depended on Lan. Returning to a higher level, the main character met the 4th. She ignored him, trying to find the answer. The partner suggested creating a new goal if the old one was achieved, but a new one could not be found. This is, of course, the correct approach, but it was unknown what exactly to do. Then the 4th clarified that they could create a planet for themselves. Despite the profitability and attractiveness of such an offer, the girl could not agree to it. Then the 4th thought a little and suggested another option. Lan should split the large goal into several small ones. This way, the girl will be able to navigate more easily, and the problem will not seem so significant. It looks like even this tin can be useful. It was really worth exploring this option. The girl does not need all these trials, responsibility, and strength. All she wants is a calm and peaceful life with loved ones. Even though this is such a simple and primitive desire, Lan cannot fulfill it. She is the head of the family. Now she leads everyone forward. Understanding the concept of a simple life was not easy for the fourth, because during this time the cycle of productivity did not disappear. However, the continuation of the Lin family is Lan. She will give birth to an heir in the future. She cannot give a damn about everything now. Then the girl told her plan. The fourth one did not like this very much because the heir must be ideal. After thinking a little, my partner realized that the system was much more complex and could not be explained in a nutshell. Lan again reminded that in such a situation she would hardly be able to do at least something. The future awaits her, but she is hicky. While the girl was complaining about her life, the fourth one came up with a brilliant plan. This inspired the main character. However, the idea turned out to be so absurd that I won't even describe it. In a couple of seconds, the fourth one will grab it. Turning on Ippo's Makunuchi mode, the girl showed her partner the Dempsey blow he deserved for such bad suggestions. It turned out that the only obstacle on this path was not the stupidity of the plan, but too high-level protection. Then one of the instructors advised me to quickly become stronger, so that even the divine cataphract could be dealt with. In some ways, the fourth was right. Increasing your stats was a must. Everything is now tied to this. For the heir to be strong and talented, the girl's strength must be 1,000 times greater than her current performance. The excess of spiritual power gradually made itself felt, and various side effects made Lan's life more difficult. The mid-year tournament begins. The guys took their places, only Ji Long was not there. He went for a walk. The girls also came next. Almost their entire company was assembled. Only a few people were missing. The girls barely made it into the top 200 participants. They didn't even dream of being in the top part. There was literally no chance at all. Luo Chao was very upset, but her brother came to the rescue in time and asked his sister not to worry too much about little things. Unlike those in Class A, everyone else had to earn their way into the top 100 of the tournament. Then the boss added, "At this stage, perseverance and spirit are more important than actual ability. Responsibility weighs heavily." Nothing was impossible, although no one understood exactly what Lan meant, so she had to clarify. The strength of those who are between 100 and 200 places is actually the same. The difference becomes more noticeable only in double-digit places. And if the abilities do not differ too much, then the winner is the one who is ready to accept the test and does not rely on luck. Notifications arrived on the girls' devices. Their matches were already scheduled. The blonde fought first, and the redhead fought second. The girls were very upset because it was bad luck, but the guys supported them and wished them luck, believing in her strength and skills. Luo Lao was very worried about his sister, which Ji Long very accurately noticed, although he should have been better off lying to her. And Luo Chao shouldn't be underestimated. Even if she didn't get into Class A, she was strong enough to defeat some of them. The matches now looked much more entertaining and fast. Only those who were equal in strength to Class B or even Class A remained. Luo Chao's second match was quite intense. Her opponent had different techniques that could cause significant damage. The red-haired girl fought well, but there were many gaps in her fighting style, especially when dodging. Sister Luo Lao constantly closed her eyes if someone attacked her or performed a technique on her. This was a fatal mistake. On the other hand, Luo Chao's advantage was that she was excellent at selecting moments. Against her, one must not forget about defense. It only takes one moment for this fighter straight out of a high school god to land a critical blow. And then finishing the fight with a spectacular finishing move would not be so difficult, so Luo Chao was able to cope with this task. The charged yin and yang attack pushed the opponent out of the ring, allowing the girl to win the new round. The 1-inch strike, or as it is called the destructive inch, is their family's secret strike, which is highly effective. The attack power of this technique is great. Its timely use can significantly change the course of the match. The strike seemed interesting to Lan, so she didn't mind learning it later since the fourth one recorded everything perfectly. Ahead lay the battle of Lan herself. Her opponent was not remarkable, rather on the contrary, it was sad news. The commandant gave the countdown and was ready to give the signal at any moment. The battle promised to be interesting. As soon as we started, the girl's opponent immediately rushed into battle. The green-haired guy seemed to consider himself immortal. He took a swing and was preparing to show his strength. It probably even seemed to him that he was the main character of the story. This was surprising even to Lan herself, as she had planned to exchange a few blows before winning. Displaying spiritual power in this way is a side effect of reaching the Dao Gate opening stage. Everything will be fine in a month. The commandant was amazed by Ling Lan's strength. It was not normal to cause such damage with a careless blow. One way or another, the winner in this round was obvious. The soldier announced the result, and the main character left the arena satisfied. Before Lan left to visit her friends, the instructor asked her to stay a little longer. He had something important to say. The fights up to the top 13 were too easy for the girl. Even the slowest and weakest blow was enough for her. The match for 7th place promised to be interesting. This was the first opponent who did not take a single step after the signal. The enemy thought that Lan's strength consisted only in a counterattack, which means that if you do not strike first, then this should be a victory. The main character didn't want to waste time just waiting, so she decided to take the shot herself for the first time. It only took a few moments to be over her opponent's head, and she wondered if one blow would be enough this time. Over time, it was possible to adapt the strength to specific conditions better and better. The girl's abilities were truly amazing. Each blow became more and more similar to the one that the main character expected to see. She liked it. Han was ranked 14th on the list. Given his intelligence, Lan bet that he would reach 10th place or higher. Other guys made it into the top 10. Their places were quite high and they turned out to be very strong. The blonde asked their boss to give it their all so that they could proudly say that they were coming first in the academy. Sometime later, the blue-haired man was able to turn the advantage to his advantage. He planned to use his special power. But even under the pressure of the violet ray, Ling Lan's right hand was not going to give up without a worthy answer. The guys clashed their auras. No one planned to give up too easily, so the two of them gave their best. The instructor was glad to finally see a battle, and not a one-shot from Ling Lan, which bored all the viewers. Li Yuzheng's condition was critical. Even though he remained on the court, it was unlikely that he would be able to make such a shot again. The stalemate in the battle led to the fact that the central instructors intervened and offered to decide the outcome with a coin. The boss's right hand returned victorious. The guy was glad that he took the pedestal next to his best friend. They wanted to know the name of the guy who won the previous duel. He performed well, and now they are interested in him. They wanted to accept the young man as a student because they saw great potential in him. Becoming a follower of the instructor was an honor. The man's gaze changed greatly as soon as he thought that the young man was giving a negative answer and did not plan to become an initiate. The boy asked to accept Han Jijun as an initiated student, saying that he had 260 IQ and turned water into wine. The blonde understood how tactless the request looked, so he asked his friend to calm down. However, the mentors decided to go along with the meeting, offering the blonde their protection if he so desired. The young man was not sure that he was worth it, because he managed to take a not-so-high place. But he is actually happy to develop his skills under the tutelage of such a renowned and experienced teacher. Each of the guys received a sign that proved that they were dedicated students. They understood that with such capable students, rest would now be guaranteed only after death. One of the instructors noticed that the guy was awakened, which is why they immediately paid attention to him. There could be no mistake. It seems that they managed to find a few diamonds among hundreds of low-quality and useless fakes. Perhaps Jilong's awakening had something to do with his family technique, which is why his strength was so great. Something was really bothering Lan. She couldn't understand what exactly, but there was some kind of catch in the teacher's words. Then the main character turned to the fourth and asked him to dig up some information about what her friends had gotten themselves into. Initiated disciples were not the same as true disciples. They were simply given the right to learn secret techniques and customs. Everything seemed too convenient, because if you didn't like the conditions, you could leave at any time. However, from her own experience, the girl knew that everything in this world exists imperfectly, so this was no exception. There was no time to worry about others, because Lan's spiritual power began to grow rapidly again, as if someone had taken out a plug. The guys were so happy about their achievements that they did not immediately notice that their friend's condition had deteriorated greatly for some reason. They rushed to help, but no one understood what exactly happened to their boss. This had never happened before. Lan explained she felt very dizzy, and there was no way to lean on anything, so she got down on her knee. So that her friends would not worry too much and disturb the main character, she asked them to leave her alone. The girl's condition was exactly what the ninth had previously described. The storm surrounded Lan's consciousness like an impenetrable wall. The new battle the next day was the hardest so far. We encountered a fairly fast opponent. The girl's name was Wu Lin. The fourth was worried about his nakama because they had already exchanged almost 100 blows. Symptoms could appear. The problem was that the enemy was too weak. The girl had no techniques in her arsenal suitable for neutralization. Any of the techniques familiar to her caused huge health problems for her opponent, and this could not be allowed. Number 4 went through different options, wanting to end this boring fight as soon as possible, because there was fun ahead. Lan decided to try to stick with her friend's version, however. She would not be able to control her power like mob stress. The main character decided to rely on her speed. She began to quickly move around the ring, attacking with weak blows. Lan was finally able to gain the upper hand without killing her opponent. Her friends were shocked at how strong their friend had performed. Several precise, successive, and quick blows knocked Wu Lin off her feet and then took her out of bounds. The instructor was amazed. He expected different things from the semi-finalist, but for the fight to be so one-sided. The main character was pleased that she had finally figured out how to win, although in the final everything should have been more complicated. Jilong was surprised by the strength of their boss. Each time it seemed as if the girl was stronger and stronger. Everyone who reached at least the same level, which the girl's friends understood, Lan didn't even give half her best. Before Wuling left, the main character explained to her that she held back the power so that the bones were not damaged. At the Central Academy, the general was pleased with how the fruit Ling Xiao planted had finally ripened. Their future was in Lan's hands. Everyone at the top of the academy and the army understood that the girl's potential was high, but this unbridled power could not be stopped if something happened. The general tried not to reveal his interest in such an asset, because one Lan could be enough to destroy the country. The daughter of a divine class operator could be the key to opening this opportunity to the general public. It was literally an endless supply of money, military power, and security. One could hardly miss out on such a valuable asset. However, the general understood that he had a difficult task ahead of him. He had to act carefully. No one was trustworthy. So far, the Central Army has only a prototype program that allows a child to develop the potential to become a divine class pilot. Keeping it open to everyone would create a generation of geniuses, but the risk would be too high. They talk about the power to bring millions to their knees. We can't let this technology fall into the wrong hands. Jilong was so happy about the boss's victory that he jumped into his arms, but there was a lot he didn't know about Lan, so she blushed. Everyone was amazed at how easily Lan dealt with her opponent, but she felt worse again. Consciousness seemed to be floating on a boat, and dragons were flying next to it, and somewhere there was the Ainkrad fortress floating in the sky. The young man with a strange haircut was very worried about his boss, because this attack happened again just like yesterday. Realizing that the situation was not simple, the guys hastened to hide their friend indoors because she asked them to do so. But as she walked further and further, it became obvious that Lan found herself outside her own space. The crystal halls that always greeted you when moving were so far and so close at the same time, it drove you crazy. Inside this fortress, there was a lot of interesting things. Various paintings, books, and statues, even huge vases. One person in particular stood out, a man with a huge sword on his back. He was present on most of the walls. His poses and facial expressions changed greatly. In some places he seemed angry, in others kind, and in others warlike. But what surprised the girl even more, this guy seemed to be a king. He was sitting on the throne looking down on everyone. Suddenly the eyes of the fresco lit up red. The girl's body was enveloped in red energy. She was visible even without Gaio. Just a couple of moments later, Lan found herself in a dense forest with tall grass, and there was still no one around. The main character tried to look around, but the landscape was as endless as it was beautiful. The journey was not difficult, since the training prepared the girl for various life challenges. The words of the ninth gave hope and faith. There was a possibility that the exit would be very close. Climbing along the rocks, Lan hoped to see something ahead at the top, but everything there was exactly the same as below. Going down, going up again, Lan spent many hours traveling trying to find that one answer. Moving forward, the main character entered another forest, but this time everything was a little different. Walking a little further, the endless greenery gave way to the warm color of ripe wheat. There was so much of it. A great place to collect resources, and then, like in Minecraft, cook yourself some bread, hearty and rosy. Standing in the field, the girl was thinking about where she should move next. The words of the ninth did not leave Lan's head. Then she again remembered that hero on the frescoes. He was somehow connected with the gates of Tao, which destabilized the girl's energy. Each time the solution would slip through her fingers into the void, the main character could not reach it, no matter how much energy she spent.